Dear viewers, wherever you are, hello and welcome to this very first episode of a new sub-series called Love Spectra. This sub-series is part of the bigger series, Spectra. And why the sub-series, somebody might ask? Well, because we're talking about an extra important topic, which is love. Such a beautiful word. But actually, since the inception of humanity, love has played the most fundamental role in sustaining and keeping humanity and in the progress of humanity itself. Because how did humanity start? It started with some kind of feelings between a man and a woman. Whether you want to look at it from a religious perspective or an unreligious perspective, either way, there was always some kind of a bond between a man and a woman. And from there came the nuclear families, then the extended families, then we had our friends, and so on and so forth. All life came from love. And actually, love comes from life too. They are very interchangeable words. But what is love? What is really love all about? Is it just a word, a simple word that you and I can just say and just forget about it? Or are there a lot of consequences and a lot of connections between love and many, many other aspects of life? Tonight, I'm really delighted, as always, to have a very distinguished guest with me, who has been my guest before and is my guest today, and I'm always delighted to have her as my guest, is the university professor and clinical hypnotherapist, Odis Nasser. Odis, hello and welcome to the program.
Hi, sorry, I had to unmute. How are you?
Fine, it's a real pleasure having you with us tonight.
Thank you.
And also, I'm really delighted to be accompanied with Marwa Masood. Marwa, good evening.
Thank you so much for having me today.
It's a pleasure. Pleasure is all mine. Pleasure is having both of you with us tonight. And to start off our discussion, Odis, can I ask you, what is love from a scientific point of view?
Yeah, well, love has been debated for a long time, and it has gone through so many cultures. Every culture has a different meaning of love. So one psychologist, Dr. Robert Sternberg, in 1988, he decided to just kind of put the science behind it, to find out what is love from a scientific or behavioral study. And he did a lot of research, and he came out with the fact that love comes down to a triangle. It's like a triangle. And we go through 3 stages of these triangles. The first stage is the intimacy. So that's the first stage of love, is you have intimacy. Intimacy is the bond, is the friendship, it's the connection that we have as humans. The next stage is the passion, the hormone, the sexual lust, you know what I mean? The desire, the attraction. And the third stage, so 3, I'm doing 3. And the third one is the commitment. That's the ultimate goal. And the commitment is where you are now not depending on your emotion, but you're consciously actually making a commitment. You really love the person deeply that you choose to be with them. From these 3 stages, he narrowed down to 7 types of love. Depend on what stage do you hit. Do you want me to go through them, or?
Absolutely, yeah.
Sure,
absolutely, yeah. But just before you delve into this,
sure.
I want to ask you about, like, there is, I don't know if this is what you're about to say, but there are like the common 4 kinds of love since the ancient times, since the Greek times. So we have the agape love, which is the love of humanity, and the love of mankind, which sometimes people would refer to it as divine love, the love of God for, humans. And then there is storge or storge or storgi, depends on how you want to pronounce it, which is the love of parents for their children. Then there's philia, love of equals, love of friends. And there is eros, which is the erotic love or the lust-based love. To what extent do you agree with this definition? These
Well,
four kinds of love.
they do exist, but what he did is he tapped into it from psychology, from behavior, from biology, what happens to us. But he does tap into them. But remember what you're saying, these are Greek words. They're Plato, I think, and ancient Greek.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so he said, for instance, it depends on which part of the triangle. So there's this triangle here, you have intimacy, you have the passion, and you have the commitment. So if you have this and this, that means you have this. You may have not, I know it's confusing, but there's so many factors or so many variables. But he said, for instance, there are 7. He narrowed down to 7. Some of these kind of relate to what you're saying. For instance, you may have only the friendship love. These are all kinds of love. Friendship is when you have only intimacy. The first part of it, that's it. You only have intimacy. You have infatuation, which you have, that's a different kind of love. Infatuation is meaning you have only passion. You don't have any of the other 2. So passion, I guess that would be, what did you call it?
Like it was eros. Eros is the lust love or the erotic love or the
erotic, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the second one. The third one was the, I believe he called it empty love. That's the third type of love. Empty love is when you have commitment, but you don't have the passion part. Then the fourth one is the romantic love, which is you have intimacy and passion. These 2 from the 3. Then you have the compassionate love, number 6, which is you have intimacy. Sorry, I gotta check my notes. Intimacy, but no passion. And 6th one is the, I forgot the name of it, fractious love, I think. And this one you have commitment and you have passion, but there's no intimacy. But the ultimate love, the purest love, which is the hardest to achieve, is the last one. It's the consummate love. That's when you have all the 3. And that's what I think is like the best love you can have. And I believe that would be what Plato was talking about. It's like love, the ultimate love.
The platonic love, yeah, what we call
platonic love. And
yeah.
This one, the consummate love is the goal of every animal, every mammal, every human being. But good luck achieving it. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of commitment. It takes going through all the 3 stages of the triangle, tapping on all of these. This is the hardest to achieve.
So would you say this is the kind of love that would be, I'm in love with the essence of my partner. So it's not like the external looks or the lust part, but I'm like it's like there is an eternal bond between me and them. You know, they're my soulmates. Like the notion of a soulmate. So finding a soulmate that can really relate to you and create an eternal bond with. Is that the kind of love you're referring to?
Yeah, because you have the 3. You have the friendship, you have the lust, and you have the commitment. You have the 3. Remember, commitment is the conscious side of you. It's the brain part. The first 2 is just emotion. So when you combine your emotion and logic, it's the ultimate.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, if we move to Marwa, like as a non-specialist, how do you see love, Marwa? How would you define love?
Yeah, that's a good question. For me, I've been searching that topic for the last 10 years. But I was in the spot by being invited into that show to speak about it. So I had to kind of dive in that topic and actually find out exactly if there is any definition of love. I haven't found any definition. That's from my level of intellect or research. So for me, love, it's not just a word that we can define it, define the word or have a definition for that word. It just, there is as Odis had introduced in the beginning about the triangle and the cultural, how the love was introduced in the beginning, different culture and different era. I was talking about maybe thousands of years ago, love was, or the partnership or the marriage has been introduced through like it's sort of family or some interests in one another. It has a lot of interference of family, what we call it now arranged marriage, like maybe on the tribes that he can be marry a woman in a certain tribe because of her status, or she marry a man because of certain status, and that developed in the maybe 18th century in the European era of romanticism. When that happened, actually changed, the love had took a shift completely about, you know, how love is, which is basically for me and in my generation or nowadays, people look at love that we thought we know love, but we don't know love. We love based on what we've been introduced before through movies, novels, poetry, films, and it's a lot of romantic stories that maybe was introduced in the beginning and that actually evolved from the 18th century and give a different structure of that love, basically. So as Odis had mentioned, that you feel that kind of feeling or emotion or intimacy towards a person, and you actually feel, oh, I fall in love. We hear that words a lot. So like we need to actually, I don't see there is a definition, a real definition for love, but we can see type of love, basically, how the love is evolved or changed over centuries until today. So if we're talking about the romanticism, because this is a big, I would say, I don't want to say thing that it will offend people, but it's a myth for me. For me, it's a myth, because this is all we know about love is I meet someone that, oh, I had feeling towards that person, and then I see that, oh, he's my soulmate. I now find the person that I can complete life with. But from my own experience being in this situation, or like in different stages of my life, and also from people around me, I found that this is, it's not the right thing, basically. So I'm trying to now find out exactly, should we still follow that, or we've been deceived by all these ideas about love and the romanticism. So basically they were talking about this relationship as like we love like instantly, like we see someone, we just feel good about that person and we need to be with that person and think, okay, now I find the soulmate. But we need to actually discuss, is that really the true love? Mm-hmm. So there is a big misconception about like what we think love is today, basically. So for me, love is not just a word that we can give it a definition that you can feel happy being with the person. It comes with a lot of things. What we love, actually, do we love the person because of the appearance, or how we see that person, or we feel towards that person?
There are many factors that you know, really affect our decision, and like you say, like you just said, like we might have a misconception or misunderstanding of our own feelings as well. Now you pointed to the age of romanticism, and that love, like as we know today, was created at that time. But let's go back to the dawn of history. And these, I want to ask you here, like we have very ancient stories of love, and even divine love. So we have Isis, or Isis, and Osiris, the god and goddess of ancient Egypt, their love. We also had in Greek mythology as well, love between gods and goddesses, and gods and humans. And we have, you know, three very famous stories from the Greek times. So we have Oedipus, Antigone, and Electra, talking about love for the mother, for the father, for romantic love, and different kinds of love as well. Then we go later on to famous stories like Romeo and Juliet, and Pride and Prejudice, and so on and so on and so forth. To what extent do you think that the pop culture played a role in creating our imagination of love? Do you think that like media, art, lit, poetry have created sort of an illusion in our heads?
Is that for me or for Marwa?
Yeah, for you, this
For
for you.
me, that's based on opinion. That's just my opinion. Of course, I agree with Marwa 100%. I like what Freud said. I like science. Freud said that love is just an imagination, because love is what you perceive to be love. For instance, Marwa brought in a really good stories of, like, we read whatever's happening now and we think, well, this is love. It's just what you perceive. It's interpersonal. What person sees is not what really is reality. So Zeus, for instance, I like Zeus. Zeus says love is one person, a man and a woman, that were cut in half and they had to be separated around the world and they have to search all their life to find each other. I mean, that's so beautiful and that's romantic, but that's not reality.
Yeah,
Love,
exactly.
exactly. Freud says love is just an illusion. Love is just an emotion. An emotion is not logical, honestly. For me, love is, I love my cat, I love my mom, I love my dad, I love beautiful things, I love nature. So it's just an emotion. The true love is when you have your emotion and cognitive thinking together, when you have to really emotionally think about that you really love the person. Do you really love them because you really love them, or because you had no choice? Do you love their, what Marwa said, do you love the appearance or do you love the person from the inside?
Mm-hmm.
So it's all perception. Everybody can tell you different opinions on it. So I just know one thing, you will know if you're in love. You will know.
But do you think that sort of media and like culture, you know, art and so on and so forth, distorted our vision for love? Like we always look for like a Juliet or a Romeo, which doesn't really exist in real life.
Of course, because even the beauty right now is distorted. I don't know if you are Instagram, for instance, you see these girls who are super skinny and they are changing their body so they look more attractive, because they, in their mind, that's what a man loves. Their mind is, that's beauty. So it's all distorted. It's all with Photoshop. Everything is fake. Right now we have all these girls doing all this cosmetic surgery to look not natural. I find them kind of not natural, but to them, that's beauty. They think that's beautiful. And they believe this is the new way of looking good. And because that's what beauty and love looks like. I have seen friends who love to them is like a $20,000 ring. To them, that's love. Versus another friend, she's like, I don't care what he gives me. I don't even need a ring. I just need a relationship. So which one is true love? The first one or the second one? To me, obviously the second one. The first one, to her, love is like, yeah, he's spending money on me. He's over evaluating me because I want to look good. So of course it's distorted. It's whatever the media tells you. Whatever the media said, this is love, then you consider it love. That's just opinion. My
So
personal
the media created sort of a stereotype for a love, and we sort of have like prototypes or archetypes for love as well, like Romeo and Juliet and so on. Now, I'd like to ask Marwa, but please, Odis, I'd like your insight as well on this question too. But from your experience, Marwa, do you think that men and women define love in the same way?
I No, I don't think men and women find love the same way now, but I'm talking about two different things now about what's been happening and what should be actually from my opinion again. Um, what should be done is actually men and women or love in general shouldn't be a difference between men and women if we're talking about the basis of love, not based on the romanticism. It could be based on reality, which is basically we need to love not the same. We need to actually walk away from romanticism because, as you mentioned, Mohammed, we were being deceived by the ideas or ideologies are introduced in the movie and poetry about what love is, and that actually was a hit to, I think, me, one of them. I gotta admit that when you really get married or you think you're gonna see what you've been introduced in movies and you know idea in your head or imagination about love, and then we said, oh, no one and talk about, no poets talk about laundry or chores in the house and kids and all the bad stuff. So all about like the love and the scenery, the sunset, the cliffs, and all these vision that been introduced. It make you like kinda, as Odis mentioned, you know you're in love because those feelings that introduce. I find the men that I can experience and share all these imagination with, but unfortunately no one had told us, even I would say from parents, friends, movies, all the culture around us have not really actually been deceived. I would not say intentionally, but I think today being mature and that intellect and the experiences that we have around us, we should really be now walking away from romanticism. And if we do that, then men and women can love the same way, basically, because the foundation that we can establish, it will set things in the right direction and can actually promote long relationships. Because romanticism actually failed us to have a long relationship because it lasts really well in the first 3 months, and then it goes into another phase after, and then another phase, and then it end up in two different directions, basically a separation. So for me, ideally, I'm not going to talk about what it is, what should be, which is we can look in the future and try to make a change and educate people about what love is really. Not what we think today is love. This is not true. So we need to actually, I would really be delighted if I can be part of more research. And I think love for me, it's not a feeling anymore. It's a skill need to be attained and acquired for people to understand what love is and commit to a longer relationship.
Okay, so taking what Mara just said now, Adis, and like the classic definition is that love for men is different than women because the percentage of lust and the erotic part is much higher in men than in women, while in women it's more the psychological bond that plays a more important role. And even in the erotic or the sexual part, to reach a form of orgasm or satisfaction for a male, it's mostly biological or physical. But for a woman, it's combined. Like it's not only the physical part, but it's the psychological satisfaction. Because, and please correct me if I'm wrong, physiologically, the need for like a sexual relationship for men is more frequent than women. How correct is this notion, or like what I've just said? Like how correct scientifically that is?
Well, the science actually says women are hornier than men, but we just don't act on it because of pressure. But love has like 3 scientific backing to it. So, for instance, men and women, doesn't matter. We all have the biology. The first part is biology because love is an emotion, just like it's a need for eating, thirst, Maslow's needs, the hierarchy of needs. So love is an emotion. In our biology, it's in our DNA. We are born with love. Then comes the second part. Besides the biology part, you've got the evolutionary part, where as mammals, as humans, way long time ago, before there was marriage and before anything, when we were just cavemen and cavewomen, evolution made us love our kids because we need to survive. It's the survivor of the fittest. So we have to protect our children because we need to move on. We need to continue living. So that's still love, but it's beyond the biology now. There is a little bit more protection. There's the evolutionary thing that Darwin was talking about. But now, in the last maybe 10,000 years, I'm talking 10,000 years ago, we have evolved to include psychology in love. What I mean by that, society, cognitive, the social upbringing, that plays a part in how we see love. But love has always been with us. It's an evolutionary, biological, hormonal, everything is there. In my opinion, there's no difference between man or woman. We both have both. We have the sex need, we have the hormones, we have the erotica, we can both get orgasms. But what comes into mind, what makes it right or wrong, what makes a person take longer than the other person, it's just psychological. It has nothing to do with the hormones. We all have the same basic needs. We all have the same evolutionary needs. But the last 10,000 years, we introduced society and culture and customs and what's right and what's wrong and what's expected, like Marwa was saying, romanticism and all that stuff. And that's what stripped us from what we were supposed to be as animals. That's what played a part in our thinking, in how we perceive love and how we are comfortable with our bodies, like body shaming for women, because that's huge. We shame women for their bodies. We tell them, don't do this or do that. So a woman will always be less open, more shy, more, depends on the culture, right?
Yeah, in some cultures there's like genital mutilation as well that happens for women, for instance.
Exactly.
And but in your opinion, like from a scientific perspective, you think that the desire for both men and women for love or lust would be equal, like regardless from different stereotypes that we might have from culture. So both of them have the same desire.
Yeah, because evolution and biology is the same. When it comes to the need, when it comes to the need of love, remember, love is a need.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's a basic instinct. It's a basic instinct,
exactly.
you can say. And going back to Marwa now, so we sort of defined what love is, or like try to define what love is. Of course, it's really far and beyond. Really, it's something that is very hard to really contain in a few words or phrases. But is love just a word, or is it a responsibility? Like, what comes along with love? So if I meet a woman and tell her I love you, or if you meet a man and tell him I love you, is that it? It's just like you need to ventilate, like you have something inside and you need to let it out, and that's it? You just speak your mind out, or there's much more to it?
Of course, love is not just a word. And when a person or two people meet, a man and a woman, and one tell the other, I love you, he wanted to kind of rephrase it and say, I admire you, because love is not happening instantly like that between two people meet, but it could be admiration. As we said, we look at for beauty, strength, some sort of like surface things when we meet a person. But we need to kind of wait until we say the word love, because love it has a responsibility, as you mentioned. If you tell the person I love you, or you tell her I love you, then it's basically come with a big responsibility. So I think that should not be said at early stages. And there is a bit of work between two partners. Basically, they need to find about each other. They need to look at beneath the surface and see the flaws, because we cannot really say, like in the romanticism, for example, they say you're loved unconditional, right? So regardless your flaws, that stays, as I mentioned, maybe few months, and after that they start really seeing all these broken, distorted picture of each other. So I think in the beginning, when people meet, they need to actually really love what is on the surface, but actually also see beyond or beneath under the surface, and try to gently understand these differences and meet and accept all these differences. I cannot really be fooling a person and say, I love you as a whole regardless. That's going to be only today, but reality, that's not going to happen in the future. So we need to be honest to each other in a relationship. For me, when like a date, a first date, for example, should be everybody talking about his craziness, his like everybody should be open about that. Tell me how you are crazy, or you know what I mean, or what is the issue that I need to be aware of, not just looking at how you look, how you talk, you're charming, you're all these kind of superficial things. But those things not being introduced, I think with dating, it become like more, everybody wanna meet the person and show the best of her, of him or her, and then actually hide everything. Let them fall in love with me, and then after that I will shock her with the surprise surprises. But I think a healthy relationship, that we should be actually gift each other our flaws or our deficiencies, or you know, all the stuff that need to be come forward. But we do like things that it's good, and we accept the other things, because we have to actually believe that we are not perfect. And this is also the romanticism, the deception, when they actually tell everybody we are all perfect. So I'm looking for the right soulmate. I'm easy to live with if I have with the right person. All this ideal, it's a lot of statement that it came, and it was, you hear it all the time, but it's actually that actually make us put us astray, I would say, in the wrong direction. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And Odis, I'd like to hear your insight about what Marwa said, but let me just add a little part here. Psychologically, what is my due diligence? Like, what is like, is there some kind of a rigorous study that I should do for my partner in order for me to know that I'm really in love with him and it's not just lust? Like, how can you tell that it's not the facade, it's not only the you know, the superficial love, it's not only like I don't just love, it's like, is it just skin deep, or is it more like, what is there a way for me to differentiate between like lust and love? Is there a way to differentiate between both?
Well, it depends on your maturity level, because I really agree with Marwa with this 100%, that you don't get to see the true color of the person until you spend time with them. But it depends under what conditions. I'm going to give you an example my cousin used to use, and I still swear by his words. He said, if you really want to see the true colors of the person, I'm going to make sure he watches this. He said he used to do this with girls in Jordan. He would ask her on a date, and he will say to her, I'm going to show up at 7 p.m. to pick you up. And he will show up at 5 p.m. to see her without the makeup and without all the hairdo and everything. And to him, that was like this true story of seeing what she really looks like. It was kind of cute, but I personally find love to be a verb, not just a noun. A verb meaning you have responsibility that comes with it. When you tell somebody you love them, you don't just say it. You need to make a promise. You have to promise them that you will give them something. You promise them that you will be there for them. You promise them you will support them. You promise you don't hurt them. But it's an emotion. So Marwa is 100% correct. Today I love you. You know what? Tomorrow, a few months later, I'm gonna dump you. And that's what happens in reality. My personal opinion, my personal view is that, from my experience, you don't get to see the true colors of the person until you have seen them through a different scenarios. So if I just started dating you, I don't believe in long distance relationship. I don't believe video relationship, because you don't get to see what the person's gonna react when you're angry. Is the person jealous? Is the person overprotective? Is the person too clingy? How is your partner going to act when you're angry? Is he going to support you, or she's going to support you? You don't get to see any of this stuff until life puts you into that moment and you get to test and see how this person is. So it's impossible to find somebody and fall in love within 2 weeks. It's impossible. To me, that's just lust. And it doesn't mean, I have seen couples who have been together for 6-7 years, perfectly happy. They get married and they've been living together, and they get married. 6 months later, they get divorced. So that kind of blew my mind. I'm like, why are you divorced? You've been living together for 8 years or 6 years. What changed? Maybe the pressure of the paper. So, and I've seen people who got married after maybe 6 months and they're happy. They stay together for a long time. It depends on your maturity. How mature are you? Are you able to pick up the signs? Are you able to make a judgment that this person is true? Is this person is not taking you for granted? They're not faking anything.
So is
Depends if
there
you're
sort
good.
of, I'm sorry I cut you out, but yeah, like, is there sort of a litmus test that we can do to really differentiate, like, not only for the other partner, but for ourselves too? So when someone tells me that they love me, or when I tell someone that I love them, what is the litmus test? What should I do, or ask myself, or look for? What are the signs that I'm sincere when I say I love them, and they're sincere when they say they love me? What things should I look for?
That's a good one. For me, you have to earn it, personally, because I've been hurt. So for me, it's when it comes to loyalty and trust and love, oh, you better earn it, honey, because I'm not letting you in. I'm going to keep my guard up. But because of my situation, my advice to somebody else is just let the person prove themselves. You will know whether, which chemical in the brain will show you that this person is trustworthy. It's up to you. It depends on you. We have a lot of psychological issues right now. I'm treating a lot of people with, for instance, borderline personality disorders. These are the most hurtful people. I feel bad for them, because to them, love is clinginess. They have a very insecurity when it comes to love, and that's the problem with their personality. As soon as they meet a partner, they're so afraid of the person leaving them, and they end up destroying the relationship because they're so clingy. There's nothing to do with how they perceive love, but there's an attachment issues with them. And what happens is they just want to rush into it right away because they think a marriage will actually save the relationship. There's some people, personal opinion, you may not agree. I don't believe in marriage. I don't think marriage is anything but a piece of paper. If I have a kid, I want my kid to get hurt at a young age. I want my kid to date. I want my kid, if it's a boy or a girl, it doesn't matter. I want them to fall in love. I want them to get dumped. I want them to get hurt. I want to build their radar up. I want to build their immunity up, because once they're older, once in that 20s and 30s, when they're ready to meet the proper person, they've already gone through all the hurdles. I don't believe in not allowing kids dating and loving, because it's natural, you have to, but just teach them how to do it properly. I don't believe in holding on until they're 21 to allow them to go and date, and after 2 months, yalla, get married. That's the worst.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing we do, because that's a failed marriage. I don't believe in any of this stuff. I believe love is pure. Love is something you have to teach your kids to do it properly. It's good when somebody says, "Oh, I'm 12 and I've hurt my guy friend, dumped me." I'm like, good. Now you're learning. Now, next time you fall in love, you'll know what it's like. I know you may not agree, but I will always follow my cousin's advice. Always show up early, put them in situations, test them, just let them prove themselves.
It's
And that's
like
what I know
any sort of experience.
personally.
Like you need time. Like the more you do it, the more you excel at it. Like it's just like any experience in life. So you'd say love is the same thing. And going back to Marwa, and as well as usual, Adisa, I would like your insight about that. From your experience, Marwa, like to what extent did love change with age? Like when you were a very little girl and like at your like puberty or adolescence and teenager and so on and so forth, how many times did your like definition of love change?
Um, yeah, definitely change over time based on ages. Because when you're in a teenager, you're full of emotion and you're being driven again by the romanticism and seeing someone you admire, somebody, superficial things and appearance and all that stuff. We're really at a young age, we're attracted to different things than we get mature in ages. Um, and then you come back in the age of maybe between 20 and 30, which is you're looking for a longer relationship or a longer commitment. This is basically, we think we know love and we made the right decision, but we basically, I'm admitting now, we didn't know, until now, we don't know what love is. And we need to learn actually or acquire the skills about love. But at that age, you basically commit to a longer relationship with the intention to be forever. But because the foundation was wrong, and as I like, basically it comes to self-awareness. No one of us know who we are really, because you don't see yourself. You need to know yourself from somebody else. So if we come, that has to come with parents. Parents will not bother telling you. They know all your flaws and what good you are in and what you're not good at. And they don't just hurt your feeling. They love you as it is. So they don't tell you anything. And your friends, they're not going to tell you what's the issues with you, because they only don't care about it because they want to have a good time with you. Just spend a short time with you. And then when it comes to like basically we have no self-awareness. Like exes, they maybe know a little bit with the with fight and stuff, but they also will not bother. They just separate, and then no one knows about oneself. Basically, we don't have the self-awareness. So basically, you go into a relationship with assuming I'm the perfect person. Why things are not going? And he think he's perfect, and this is the ideology that we construct life with, or partnership. So because of all this, again, the foundation was totally wrong. It gave love or a different stage that proven afterwards it's not the right one. But at this stage, I think we're mature enough to know that we need to actually humble ourselves and say, we are trying to learn love, really, even though you're older or you're mature enough, but that's the maturity level puts you in a state that you can just say, I don't know what love is, and I'd like to learn the right way of love, the realistic way of love. So definitely, like, the stages is different. It all have a lot of experiences and put us where we are today. If we don't go through these experiences, as Odi said, feeling emotional and all that stuff, and differentiate, you cannot know the right from wrong unless you actually have some bad experiences. And I actually not really critique about it. I'm actually happy from all experiences that I've seen in life, because it puts you where you are today. And it's a lovely journey, and it gives you a bit of wisdom and curiosity to do, to learn more and do better. And basically, if men or women the same can work together to better themselves, like oneself, basically, if that's the goal, then two people come to a relationship, they're going to be actually trying to work together to construct actually that relationship for a longer term, because they're going to talk about their faults, their issues, the broken part, the distorted area of our life. And all of us as human being, we've been like in one way or the other have experiences that scarred us, right? As Audi said, that from one experience, you're going to say, oh, I'm scared of being committed with a person I can actually date. And then when it comes to a serious relationship, I back out. Why? Because I have in my mind bad experience or something that scares me. So that's also another responsibility of love, that when you come to a relationship, you need to clean up. You need to actually not accept person as he's perfect or I am perfect. We need to actually love what is perfect and actually negotiate what's imperfect. Like negotiate it and then actually work on how we can deal with the differences. Basically, that's what make it more bonding and make a successful relationship.
Absolutely. And Odis, so again, going back to age and love, or you said that it's an experience, it's a life experience that comes over time. And when you try time and again, you start understanding what is your own personal understanding of love, because there is not a generic or like one definition that has the acceptance of everyone in the world. So everyone might see love in a different way. The first question I want to ask you is, do you strongly advise people not to get married or to have a long commitment with their first love?
Well, that's the first question. So my first answer would be, you will know. Honestly, I mean, you will know if this is real love. Are you in the lust stage or in the love stage or the commitment stage? If from previous videos, remember there was like 3 stages of love. But personally, I believe that we know that one thing, that the brain keeps evolving. Your thoughts, your brain keeps evolving until the age of 28. Before 28, if you get married so young, I find it young. If you get married before 28, the chances are, depending on how mature you are, it may not last. If you waited a little bit, if you waited till you're at least 30 and you're stable and you've gone through a couple of relationships and you are marrying not because of social pressure, because of the life stage that you're in, because you're expected to get married. You get married because you want to, that will last longer. So that's not on me to tell the person, get married or don't get married. I would always say, you make that decision. That's your life. That's your choice. But we do know, for instance, different chemicals in the brain triggers when there is only lust. And then there's different chemicals in the brain that triggers when there's the dopamine and there's serotonin. I don't want to get into biology. But you need to have the commitment. You need the serotonin. And what I mean by that, the serotonin is the one that tells you, yes, I did find my ultimate lover. To get this little guy up in your hormone level, you have gone through thick and thin. You probably been best friends for a while and then you fall in love. You cannot separate it because love is an addiction. It's just like a sugar addiction, like drugs. It's the same thing as having withdrawal symptoms from drugs. So I really don't know. I don't know the answer. That's a good question, but I always say, you know. But if you're 16 and you're in my clinic and you're like, I'm in love, I'm like, come on, you're 16. I try to explain to them about the 3 levels, right? And then I'll say, don't rush, date, don't get married, date. What's the point? Date, wait, try, see, go from there.
Yeah, build your own experience. And because like both of you are saying here, like if you think that your partner is flawless, is ideal, then you don't really love them. Like part and parcel of love is knowing and fully accepting your partner with his or her flaws. But if you think they're ideal, they're just an angel in disguise, this can never be true love. But again, going back to love and age, there are biological changes that happen and physiological changes that happen to the human body with you know, if we're talking about hormones and so on, maybe the desire for like sex or like and so on might vary from one age to the other. But again, um, is it like what is the percentage or like to what extent does love play an important part in a permanent relationship? So would you give love like 20%, 25%, 50, 75% to sustain a relationship, to keep it going forever?
Is that for me or for Marwa?
For you, and then I'd like to hear Mara's perspective. But for you.
Okay, sorry. Sorry, I didn't know because I had on mute. To me, love is not as important as the commitment part. So if you remember the 3 stages, so there's lust, then it evolves into love, then it evolves into commitment. If you want the long-term relationship, you want the commitment one, because now you're going from just sex hormones, which is the lust, then evolves to the dopamine, which is a short-term happiness. But then the dopamine, after a long time, if you stay together for a very long time, it becomes a serotonin. The serotonin is the long-term bond. It's the long-term hormone that keeps you happy. So love is a vital part. Obviously, you have to love the person. But the most important is the serotonin, because that's permanent. That stays until you get your heart broken or the person passes away or something happens. Then that's a different story. But the ultimate love is to have the 3. But which one is more important? The commitment, the last stage. That overrides everything. You can have a very happy relationship with someone with no sex, but you still love them, and there's a big bond between them. You don't need to have sex, because that's just a sexual need. It's short term. That's my 2 cents.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And Mara, your perspective about this?
Yeah, I agree with Udis 100% about that. The love changes over time, but it's still love, but it actually take a different format, basically. As the younger or the early age of the relationship, there is a certain need. I'm not going to talk about biological needs that in the early stage, and then it goes a responsibility, and other needs require also a different way of love, which is loyalty, trust, accepting one another, be patient with one another. If someone make mistakes, we need to be exercise patience and give him time to kind of reflect and understand what make the person be in certain situation or behave in a certain way. So that comes with maturity in the relationship. So that's also a form of love, that understanding. And then as it mature, and as Odi said, the sexual need is kind of declining. There's a lot of other need, the companionship, the trust, the having a good time, maybe discuss ideas or doing things together. So, but for me, consider love. And as a relationship is prolonged, it credits from one another. Like there is a good time that and contribution to that relationship that can put it as I call it as a bank account, basically. So all those things is being built up and add up. So that person become, the credit is high, that even if anything is declining, you feel, okay, even that does not exist, I have a lot to cherish that I have with that relationship that make this relationship maybe bonding and prolonged for a longer time. So for me, at all level, there is a love. It just takes different format based on actions and events in that relationship, for sure. Yeah.
And Odis, if somebody is heartbroken, or if somebody tells you that they love you, but it's just a hoax, like they're just making it up, what are the psychological effects of that? Of someone who's being dishonest in their feelings. So someone who tells you, like, you know, you're my ideal match, you're like, you and I are a match made in heaven, you're my soulmate, but they're just after you, you know, after you for lust, and once they get it, then that's it, they're out. um, how can this affect you on the long term if you've been tricked by someone?
There is actually, it's a medical term. It's a clinical heartbroken person. It's a clinical heartbreak, because what happens to you when you're in love, you really trigger the dopamine and the oxytocin, which is the same hormone that is triggered when you're addicted to something. So you become addicted to the person, and the longer you are with them, the more addicted you are to them. Imagine any kind of addiction. So you are with somebody, forget the lust. Imagine you've been together for 10 years and complete loyalty, complete love, complete everything. And all of a sudden, you know, somebody drew the, what do you call it, rug under your feet? Is that what we say? Pulled the rug
Yeah.
under your feet. What happens to you? These two hormones will automatically drop. They will just drop. And then what comes instead is the stress hormone, cortisol. Cortisol is the stress hormone. It gets replaced by that. Cortisol is like a disaster, because cortisol is the that causes stress. It's the one we use for fight or flight. So that's going to skyrocket up the roof. You're going to have anxiety. You're going to have depression. You're going to have panic attacks. You're going to have acne. You're going to have weight gain or weight loss, nausea. There's a lot of reaction physically to the body. Mentally, you kill the person. Listen, emotional pain is exactly like physical pain. It is pain. When somebody says I'm heartbroken, believe them, because to them it's pain. How am I going to explain this? Do you remember the movie John Wick? Is it John Wick?
Yeah, John Wick. Yeah.
Where John Wick, I think when his wife was dying, she gave him a puppy, right? Is it John Wick? Where, anyways, and some gangs came and killed the puppy? Was it John Wick?
I think so. I think so.
Okay. So just in case if anybody didn't see it, so there was like 3 parts of the movie now. In the movie, John Wick was a guy who had been a big gang leader or something, and he quit because he fell in love with a woman. But she ended up dying from cancer, and then while he was mourning her, like a few days after she had died, he received a puppy that she had gifted him in her honor because she knew she was dying. 2 days later, or a month later, one of the old gang members came in and they shot the puppy. So he started going on a gang spree and he started shooting everybody. He killed the whole thing in the movie. It's like a drama thing. Everybody was saying, oh, well, just a puppy. Like, why would he just do the whole thing for a puppy? The question is, what is the puppy to him? See, to us, we're watching this, it's a puppy. To him, what do you think the puppy meant to him? Is it just a puppy? It's his wife, what it represents to him. So when somebody breaks up with another person, it could be, I have seen people that got heartbroken and a few months later they're back on and moving on with somebody else. And I have seen people who are heartbroken and they could never get out of it. They are just depressed for years and they can never get over it. Because what did that mean to them? What is that love meant to them when the person walked away? What did the person walk away from? What was that person representing to them? It's a huge responsibility when you break someone. It's huge. It's not an easy thing.
And Marwa, like, from your perspective, from your experience, and finally, I'd like to ask you, and then get Odisha's, like, again, scientific point of view about that as well. Is there sort of a prescription you would think of, like do's and don'ts, for someone who's someone who thinks that they're in love? Like, what kind of things should you look for? What kind of things should you avoid in order for you to minimize the risk, or to have a calculated risk with whomever you're planning to have a long commitment with?
Yeah, I like that word, prescription. It's actually a little bit hard, because when you are in a relationship, you want to actually set yourself free to enjoy all these kind of moments and feelings, and just let go and try to have that sense of the relationship, how it's going. But as a prescription being knowing or heartbreaking, I know I totally agree with Odis about if someone got really like I would say unsuccessful relationship and his heart or her heart is broken. I've seen mainly women get actually hurt more than men in terms of relationship, and it can lead to a sickness, and some people commit suicide. I hear about that too, or lost a way of life, and taking pills. So definitely they need prescription when they are people in a relationship. You want to warn them about just hold on a little bit of your feeling, which is a little bit hard to do. But as I said, it's nice when you meet someone, you want to actually be yourself, feel the joy and all that stuff. But there is a bit of thing that I was introduced to, something called emotion intelligence, which is basically you can still enjoy the feeling, but you can ride the emotion, not let the emotion ride you, basically. Because what happened with these sickness and stresses and all those kind of devastated situation with the broken relationship, it comes from unable to handle their emotion. So emotion is beautiful, and you need to actually again, it's all about education and learn the techniques to enjoy those emotions, and also not let it hurt you if things didn't work. Because sometimes it doesn't work not because someone was not honest. Things happen along the way. Like I cannot really blame one or the other, but like if we would be very lucky if the two partners, they actually commit together for a longer term. But along the way, things happen and one doesn't like the other. It doesn't matter if a man or a woman, or how their emotion intelligence, how they can handle that situation. So I think as a prescription, I would recommend everybody to take in some courses or educate themselves about what emotion and how to acknowledge their feelings. You know, you need to know how I feel, which is, we know how we feel. We feel sad, but we never really think about why we feel that way, basically. So there's a lot of techniques, and I think this is my prescription to lovers or people in relationships, for sure.
Okay, thank you very much. And this, you said something that I think is very, very useful to our viewers today, is that we don't have a form of a consensus. Like there is, we don't have a unanimous, like sort of agreement about what is love for everyone. So you said it's a very personal thing. So what should you do from a scientific point of view? What is your advice to anyone who's watching us today to know what is their love? What is their own definition of love? And not just only take the definition from like parents or peers or from movies. How can I know what is love for me?
That's an excellent question. You know what? From what I've been seeing in my clinic, because I'm a clinical hypnotist, my specialty is depression and suicide, by the way, and mood disorders. I'm trained in suicidal interventions and all that stuff. And most of the cases I get is heartbreak. People who've been depressed because they've been dumped or whatever it is. What worked, what I've been using, and it worked 100% to turn the person over to not kill themselves, was to ask them, the first question I asked, are you in love with the person or are you in love with the relationship?
Mm-hmm.
Because we need to separate. Who are you in love with? Is it the fantasy, like Marwa was saying? Is it the fantasy you want to be with a relationship, or is it just him? If I replace him, let's say it's a girl and a guy, and I say, if I replace him with somebody else, somebody better, would that change your mind? And we're like, yeah, I think so. So it's not him, it's the relationship. So I do something called reframing, because I'm trying to open their eyes to show them that it's not the person that you're in love with. It could be just, it's the satisfaction of a need that you're missing. Maybe because you're too lonely. So I need to find out what causes the pain. And then from there, I do something called CBT, which is try to reframe their mind to focus on them, to make them happy, because you can never be happy with somebody if you're deep inside is not happy. The person should never complete you. You should be complete on your own. And the person who comes into your life should complement you. But if you're waiting for someone to complete you, like Zeus said, it's wrong, because you will always be unhappy. There's always walking in a relationship. Marwa mentioned, love changes, things will happen. But if you're complete by yourself without the other person completing you, that's the ultimate goal. So I try to work with the person to try to help them stand on their feet and get stronger and get better. So they are standing, and then they will become more guarded, and they become more equipped to be more ready when they meet the right person, because they understand what love is at that point. Imagine the people with the borderline disorder. The borderline are the most traumatic people. These are the ones who commit suicide because they have attachment problem. As soon as somebody leaves the relationship, kill themselves. They have the highest suicide rate, is borderline personality, because of heartbreak. And their problem is nothing to do with love, nothing to do with relationship, it's attachment. They never had love with their kid. That's really the root cause of their pain. So my advice from my experience is that focus on yourself first. Don't get attached until you're ready. You will know whether the person comes into your life because you're bored, or is the person giving you something you're lacking. Because if you're looking for love, go get a puppy. You may get the same love from a puppy versus a person. At least a dog will never hurt you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, they will never hurt you.
And Odisse, do you believe that, so you don't believe at all that there is like a lock and chain relationship, or like a jigsaw puzzle relationship between two people, which means that you are the one and only human on this planet that can complement me? That's an illusion, right?
I agree.
So you don't.
Marwa, what do you think? You agree?
Yeah, from what you said, Odisse, I like that word, complete and complement. This is a key words here. So you need everyone, either man or woman, should be complete on their own, and having a relationship should complement him or her. That's basically, it's a key word.
Or
And
you would say like a supplement, maybe, like
yeah, supplement.
yeah.
Supplement to make addition to the life, make it a little bit like more joy, but it's already beautiful as it is, because that actually can make the relationship very healthy. Because attachment can make pressure on one another, basically, because it's unhealthy relationship. It's a needy personality. I need the person to make me happy. I'm looking for someone who can do things for me or make me happy. That means you're unhappy already. So this is basically a key things that Odisse mentioned. You need really to be complete yourself and have like self awareness, and just have that relationship. Like when you proceed, it will be even more fun, more joy, because there's no pressure on one another, which is make that, like, if that balance is not there, you will feel someone in need, that it actually sucks all your energy, because you feel that he needs you to do things for him or her, basically. So that's why we need to work on advise people in relationship to be happy on their own, as Odisse said, get a puppy. Not just that, but I mean, if that's the only reason that I need to be in a partnership because I'm lonely, now my loneliness is gonna go away. I find my soulmate. All these ideology, again, the soulmate ideas or loneliness and all that stuff, it need to be banished, basically. Yeah, we need to get away of romanticism. If you advise people in love, just forget about that era completely, and really let's build new foundation for a real true love, basically. Yeah.
At the end of this like great conversation, really, I really enjoyed it myself to the max, and I hope it was very useful for our viewers. I'd really like to thank Mara Masood for being with us tonight, and as always, like it's not the first or second time, as always, it's a real great pleasure to have Udis Nasser with us, and with her great insights and her great perspectives here. So thank you both very much for being with us tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Mohammed. Thank you, Udis. It was lovely meeting you, Udis, and enjoyed really your insights on this topic for sure.
Thank you. Same to you, Marwan. Please go. Don't buy a puppy, adopt a puppy, because I'm into adoption. Or get a cat.
Absolutely.
Nice to meet you, Marwan.
Nice to meet you too.
Thank you both very much. And dear viewers, if we just recap here, always remember that you cannot give something that you do not have. You can never give, you know, happiness if you don't have it. And happiness comes from within. So if you're not internally happy, no matter what the circumstances are, you'll never be. So do not look for a partner who will give you something. No, the partner will not give you something. You can work with the partner to achieve something together, but they are not something that would give you something that doesn't exist. Just like Udis said, it's just like a drug. So when you take a drug, when I have some cocaine or whatever, it just puts me into an illusion. It's not real happiness. If you take an ecstasy pill, you go into like a utopia, an ideal world, like a fantastic world. But it's an illusion. It's a mirage. It doesn't really exist. So the real good life, for you to have a real permanent good life, it has to come from you and from your own hard work. Same thing for love. Your lover should never be an ecstasy pill. No. They are your partner. They'll work with you hand in hand together to achieve the ultimate goal for both of you here. And if the relationship doesn't work, it's not the end of the world. You still have yourself. You are still there. And it's very important to notice, are you really in love with your partner, or are you in love with love itself? Are you someone who just got used to receiving a specific dose of a drug on daily basis, and now you're just missing that drug in your system? So is it the feeling of romance and love that you're missing, or are you missing that partner? And definitely, the word love can be defined in many different ways. So never take the definition of love from your parents or from peers or from cinema. No, you have to build it on your own, and it has to come with experience. You can't just get it overnight. It has to come with experience. And definitely there is a lot of, commitments that come along with love. And commitment is the ultimate thing. This is the thing that we're all looking, to have a commitment with the people we love and care about. Dear viewers, thank you very much for being with us tonight. And until we meet again, have a very pleasant evening. Take care.